Tonight, scrub clues, a crime scene set up near Samantha Murphy's home as her husband visits the search zone.
A gang of teens arrested on a city tram following a violent brawl as tough new weapons laws are introduced.
King Charles puts on a brave face after Prince Harry's mercy dash to be by his side.
Scalpers pull a Swiftie on Tay-Tay fans, while those without tickets are warned to stay away from the MCG.
Young and reckless, 9 News is there as police swoop on hoons breaking the law for social media clicks.
And from the Coleman to the co-captaincy, Charlie Curnow earns a promotion.
This is Melbourne's 9 News with Alicia Loxley and Tom Steinfort.
Good evening. There's been a significant development in the search for missing Ballarat mother Samantha Murphy.
Police today evacuated part of a walking trail and declared a crime scene after finding items of interest. Mimi Becker with the latest.
After 4 days of tireless searching, finally a possible clue. The SES and police zoned in on some items found on a walking track and set up a crime scene less than a kilometre from Samantha Murphy's home.
A bit of hope, anything is better than nothing.
Today, police had focused their search around the Ballarat East property. SES crews directly out the front as officers combed nearby paddocks and spoke to neighbours. Police released this image in CCTV showing the mother of 3 on her morning run on Sunday, but sadly, she never returned.
We're holding up. It's scary that we're getting onto another day. We just can't actually fathom what might have happened or how it happened, how somebody can just disappear.
Local residents once again selflessly answering the call to help search.
The terrain around here is pretty treacherous in some areas.
I'm a mum of 3, so yeah, I just really like her to be home with her 3 kids and her husband.
The 51-year-old's husband, Mick, drove to the search site at Wurrukurong Regional Park, but within 2.5 hours, police had reopened the park and declared the items weren't of interest. In another twist to this intriguing case, this time last year, Sissy Austin was brutally bashed and knocked unconscious while running in the Lal Lal State Forest 20 kilometres east of where Samantha went missing.
My absolute heart and soul is with Samantha's family, friends, community.
While Sissy's attacker was never caught, the community is adamant it won't give up hope finding Mrs Murphy. She faces a 4th night lost in the bush.
We're talking about a mum of young kids, and we just want her to be found safe.
And Mimi joins me now live from the search zone. Mimi, residents need to check their CCTV.
They do, Alicia. Police and SES have moved the search to just off Yankee Flat Road. It's the direction that Samantha was seen running in the CCTV that they released today. But officers are really keen for residents to check their cameras and see if they can spot Samantha anytime between 7 a.m. and 11 a.m. on Sunday. As for the search here tonight, it will continue until around 8:30, and officers and volunteers are preparing to be back out again tomorrow as the search for Samantha Murphy enters day 5. Alicia?
OK, Mimi, thank you.
Sweeping new powers will ban the sale of machetes to youths and allow police to strip guns from criminals. But in the middle of a youth crime wave, the state opposition says the legislation itself is stolen. Laura Turner reports.
As if on cue, hours before a youth crime announcement, a gang of teenagers in a violent tussle before fleeing Birrung Ma, suspected of robbery.
Oh,
When police tracked them to a tram, they were lined up along Batman Avenue.
It looked like probably about a dozen young people. They had them for probably seemed like at least an hour and a half, almost 2 hours.
Despite 3 arrests, no one was charged. Another incidence of youth violence that's prompted this.
Most people don't need to be walking down the street carrying a machete.
It'll be illegal for people under 18 to buy, possess or carry a machete.
We're looking at middle of the year.
Anti-violence campaigners say the law change is long overdue.
I thought, it's fine. We've got a long way to go because there's one step.
But one the opposition says they thought of first.
This is a bill that they mocked as a joke and a political stunt just in November last year.
Police will also have greater powers to issue firearms prohibition orders, meaning now even if you're on the run from the law, they can still slap you with one anyway.
If you're stopped in the street for any reason and police check on their database that you're subject to a firearm prohibition order, but you haven't been served, we can detain you for up to 2 hours.
But is it a measure too far?
It's about giving police the powers for warrantless search and seizure on anyone that they choose. This is not the way that we need to attack organised crime.
Laura Turner, 9 News.
Tony Mockbell has returned to the witness box in his fight for freedom. The 58-year-old revealed fellow underworld figure Carl Williams didn't trust Nicola Gobbo and warned him to stay away from her. He huddled in the back of a fortified prison van as he left court, his lawyer warning he's exhausted after he was kept up by a noisy cellmate. Prosecutor David Glynn showed no mercy, quizzing the drug baron on a series of phone calls he had with Nicola Gobbo. He will continue giving evidence tomorrow. A stiff upper lip from King Charles today in the wake of his cancer diagnosis. He appeared in public shortly after Prince Harry arrived from California for his reunion with his father. Brett McLeod has today's developments.
Not slowing down. Britain's most prominent cancer patient leaves his home at Clarence House with a smile and a wave for crowds outside as the King and Queen made the short drive to Buckingham Palace, greeted by well-wishers.
Hopefully they'll be able to treat it and he'll be well and back on form again.
As he undergoes treatment as an outpatient, Charles' contact with others has been restricted. One major exception, his son, Harry. The Duke of Sussex flew to London overnight from California, going straight from the airport to Clarence House. It was father and son's first meeting since the coronation and lasted under an hour.
King Charles is by nature, he wants to heal not only the world, but I think his impulse would be to try and heal the family.
From Buckingham Palace, Charles and Camilla were whisked away by air to their Sandringham estate. That's where Charles was last seen in public at the weekend. He knew then what the world didn't know, that he'd been diagnosed with cancer. As he'll be recuperating there for the foreseeable future, other royals have started stepping in for him.
Your Royal Highness, how is the King?
Princess Anne visiting a community centre after handing out honours at Windsor Castle.
The palace says it won't be providing running commentary on how the King's therapy is going, and so updates may be far and few between. But someone who's had an insight is the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, who says the cancer was caught early.
I'm, of course, in regular contact with him. All our thoughts are with him and his family. And thankfully, this has been caught early, and now everyone will be wishing that he gets the treatment that he needs.
At the least, the King's positive public face seems to be just what the doctor ordered. In London, Brett McLeod, 9 News.
And Europe correspondent Edward Godfrey is at Buckingham Palace for us this evening. Edward, Prince Harry, he's caught up with the King. Do we know if he'll be breaking bread with his brother William while he's there as well?
Well, Tom, sources close to Prince William say he has absolutely no plans to meet with his brother Harry while he is here visiting in London. Others are saying that perhaps a family friend could intervene and broker something to get the two together, but it seems unlikely. We'll have to see if they do sit down and break bread. Prince William will resume royal duties today. He's had a few weeks off caring for his wife Kate after her abdominal surgery. He has an event at Windsor Castle this afternoon, and then tonight, our time, he has a charity gala dinner here in the city in London where he is scheduled to give a speech, and he may say something publicly for the first time since his cancer diagnosis was revealed.
Edward Godfrey there, thank you. Well, from ticket fraud to tailor-gating, Swifties are being warned about a raft of issues ahead of the megastar's Melbourne tour. Taylor Swift is due to arrive in just 1 week, and as Madeline Spark explains, desperate fans are falling victim to scams.
As far as Taylor Swift fans go, Ross Fitzpatrick is among the most dedicated.
I surround myself with Taylor Swift every single day. I have my CDs, my posters, wallpaper.
See you there. Getting a ticket to one of the shows isn't enough. He's planning to celebrate in the MCG Gardens on the other 2 nights as well.
I'll be going outside the stadium, hanging out with friends, meeting different Swifties from different groups and trading friendship bracelets.
What we've seen from Taylor Swift's concerts internationally,
what do we call it, tailor-gating?
And it's being discouraged. The MCC chief executive stating there will be no activations in Yarra Park or screens showing the concert live.
Arrangements are being put in place.
Police will have a presence, but they're also trying to stamp out scammers. Last year there were 250 reports of ticketing scams for the Eras tour worth $260,000.
Often it's quite convincing to the victim because it might be somebody that they trust or know, an account that's advertising these tickets for sale.
And for those with tickets, getting to the concert on public transport could be a headache too, with disruptions on train lines for all 3 days of the tour. Buses will replace trains between Bayswater and Ringwood and on the Frankston line between Cheltenham and Mordialloc.
We're putting on about 150 extra services over the weekend that the concerts are on.
Madeline Spark, 9 News.
The future of St Kilda's recently toppled Captain Cook statue will be decided by Port Phillip Council tonight. Let's go live now to Amber Johnston for more on this. Amber, a local councillor wants the community to decide this.
He has, Alicia, and it's been about 2 weeks since a group of activists used angle grinders to topple the statue. Now the question's been asked exactly what should happen next and should the statue return to the foreshore here at St Kilda. Councillor Robbie Niagwe says that decision should be left up to locals, asking for a community consultation process we've been told will cost around $12,000. He's not entirely against the statue, but he does say maybe the foreshore isn't the best spot to keep it. He's asking council to crunch the numbers, presenting a motion at tonight's council meeting asking for an estimated cost of reinstating the statue, expecting it'll be anything between $10,000 to $15,000. At least one councillor has pushed back, labelling the move as an attempt to undermine the community's cultural heritage. Here is what Councillor Niagwe had to say in response to that.
It's very difficult for us to know with these contested issues around history what people want. And that's why I think it's really important that we have a meaningful conversation. And it's not a binary question of taking it away or putting it back. There's lots of different ways we can look at treating this statue and contextualising it.
He went on to say it's not just about finding an expert to do the job and exactly how much that will cost, but it's also the added security that will be needed here on the foreshore to make sure that something like this doesn't happen again.
OK, Amber, thank you. A new ethics committee may soon have to scrutinise taxpayer-funded international travel for Victorian MPs. In the midst of a cost of living crisis, backbenchers have run up a bill worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. State political reporter Mark Santomartino.
After travelling on the taxpayer's coin, most MPs, like Kim Wells, are open to questions.
In this case, I think it was an excellent use.
Others make it look like they have something to hide.
Do you think it was worth the money spent?
Bridget Valance visited London, Athens and Auckland last year to explore economic opportunities.
There's a lot of value to be gained by international relations.
The Liberal MP charged taxpayers almost $10,000 for those flights. Labor's Gary Mars claimed more than $6,000 to attend a political conference in Chicago.
I actually use some of those communication skills in my practical everyday.
With 2 legalised Cannabis Party MPs in the upper house, 4 Liberals flew to Phuket to investigate after Thailand relaxed its laws. Nick McGowan paid for his own flights. Renee Heath and Bev MacArthur did not.
I think cannabis is a huge deal.
Do you think it's a good use of taxpayers' money for MPs to go overseas?
I do.
Ms MacArthur also visited Korea, while Lee Talamas double-dipped on India. The Labor MP visited twice in 2023 because he represents the largest population of Indians in Victoria.
That is probably a good example of how members of parliament are appropriately representing their community.
Jacinta Allen, who will also fly to India on her first trip as Premier this year, stopped short of saying if any of these trips failed the pub test, leaving that to the independent tribunal, who ultimately decides what an MP can and cannot claim.
It is my expectation that all members of parliament should use these entitlements appropriately.
Mark Santomartino, 9 News.
A French tourist who scaled a 55-storey building in the CBD without a harness is likely to face jail. Dougal Beattie joins us with more on this one. Dougal, he appeared in court last night.
Yeah, Tom, his name is Anthony Andolfo. He's a 29-year-old from France. He faced an out-of-sessions court hearing last night after being charged with reckless conduct endangering life. Now, he had been hoping for a fine, but the magistrate told him he was facing a term of imprisonment after he scaled that 55-storey building in the city yesterday morning. He's been living in Australia for the past 12 months and he was due to leave the country today when his visa expired. Now, the court heard he had no prior mental health issues, he's got no prior convictions, and his time in custody had been quite a rude awakening for him. Now, he has very little money to his name. He's done similar incidents, similar climbs over in Europe without incidents. Now, the magistrate said there was a risk to the people on the ground. That's why it's being treated so seriously. But the interesting thing is that the prosecution hadn't asked for a custodial sentence and left it in the hands of the magistrate. Now, his mate, who was filming it on the ground via a drone, he was convicted and fined $3,000. But Anthony Andolfo didn't apply for bail. He is due to face court again next Thursday, facing a maximum penalty of 5 years jail, Tom.
OK, Dougal, thank you. Former ACCC boss Alan Fels has handed down a detailed report into price gouging. He says Australians need better protections to stop almost constant rip-offs. Finance editor Chris Kohler.
Walking into Canberra after months of investigation, Alan Fels says corporate giants are out of control.
Australians are paying prices that are too high too often.
And he says the consumer watchdog needs to be more vicious.
The cause is weak and ineffective competition in too many sectors.
Handing down a report on price gouging, the former ACCC boss made 36 recommendations to the government, including new laws to name and shame corporate price gougers and powers to break up big companies when needed.
The Australian government needs to act on high prices.
The report finds dodgy corporate practices are everywhere. There's drip pricing, where the advertised price differs from the final amount at checkout, a big problem in online retail, medical procedures and airline tickets. Excuseflation, using global trends like inflation to camouflage unrelated price hikes, seen across almost all corporates. And loyalty taxes, where cheap introductory prices are quickly and quietly replaced by higher costs, found across energy, insurance and banks.
This is unfair. The public needs an explanation. Please explain.
The fact is, prices are still rising fast. In the last 2.5 years, Australians are paying well over 20% more for fuel, travel, gas and power, insurance and food, and very few are exactly sure where inflation ends and corporate profiteering begins. But tonight, a plea to strive for a better understanding.
There's nothing more on the minds of Australians than the cost of living and the impact of prices on them.
Chris Kohler, 9 News.
Our Olympic team has its newest member, Seaford's Campbell Harrison, who will represent Australia in sport climbing. Following its debut in Tokyo, the discipline has exploded in popularity and the Aussie contingent has high hopes ahead of Paris. Alicia has more.
He's been dubbed Australia's Spider-Man, and for Campbell Harrison, his happy place is between a rock and a hard place.
How long can you do this for?
Oh, this one, maybe not forever.
The 26-year-old becomes the 5th Australian athlete to get their hands on a ticket to Paris.
I have not raced for 8 years and I still get sweaty palms thinking about how close the games are.
4 years ago, COVID border closures hampered Campbell's qualifying attempts for Tokyo. To finally realise his Olympic dream was overwhelming.
Look what it means to him.
Leading into that final climb, there was this huge sense of pressure that was weighing on me. It's not often you sit in front of a crowd of a few hundred people and sit on the ground and cry, you know.
The sport, one of 4 that made its debut in Tokyo, is physically and mentally complex, and problem solving is crucial.
The time you're allotted to climb the boulder is also the time you've been allotted to assess the boulder. So often the buzzer will go off, you'll run out to the field of play and you'll be seeing these boulders for the very first time.
For Campbell, 8 years of professional climbing has led to this proud moment in green and gold. With him every step, parents Yvette and Russell, who had their hands full. Campbell is one of 4 kids.
He climbed around the guttering of the house, he climbed around the walls, he'd sit in the corner of the walls like a spider.
And while it may be a new Olympic sport,
I always knew, I just thought he'll go to the Olympics one day, no doubt.
Mums know best.
Mums always know best.
170 days and counting. Alicia Muelling, 9 News.
Now with a look ahead to the rest of sport. Tony Jones.
What a head, what a face. Thanks, Tom. Coming up, a young saint cops a nasty head knock at training today. We'll have that story for you. Also at Princes Park, the Blues class of 24 assembles for a snap, and Charlie is very much part of the Vice squad.
Yeah, I mean, it's a massive honour. I'm super lucky to be standing alongside of Cripper, Weeders and Walshy.
Things, meanwhile, get a little willing at Pies training. Also, 6 years in the wilderness, but Michelle is a Matilda once more. Why Melbourne Storm is wild about Harry, and Mr Ponting goes to Washington. This career move could be hard to trump. Get
Very
it?
nice.
See what you did there.
Okay.
We're connecting the dots as we speak.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. When Melbourne's 9 News returns, part 3 of our investigation into the youth crime crisis.
The surging amount of reckless behaviour in search of social media clicks.
Plus, Donald Trump's bold immunity bid dismissed by 3 judges.
And a man's dedicated attempt to rescue his dog from a raging river.
From the peer push incident to cyclists being allegedly mown down, young people filming crimes and posting them online has become a disturbing trend.
More than 50 illegal dirt bike riders terrorised motorists across Melbourne, performing dangerous stunts on our freeways. Neri Tai was there when police swooped during early morning raids.
An army of dirt bike hoons showing off across Melbourne's busiest freeways, pulling off dangerous stunts for social media clicks, but now they've been stopped in their tracks.
Do you regret going to the dirt bike meet?
Oh, sorry, I don't know what you're talking about.
Just days before Christmas, more than 50 youths took part in an illegal mass ride.
It's really reckless, it's dangerous.
Unregistered, some unlicensed and out of control.
They're performing acts such as monos, burnouts, donuts, those types of activities, and they're doing them on major arterial roads.
The meet was organised online with the riders travelling from the Tulla across the Balti Bridge and to St Kilda.
Any slight deviation or any accident has the potential to cause serious injury or, even worse, a fatality.
A police car was damaged, investigators allege, at the hands of this 19-year-old reservoir man.
Were you showing off in front of your mates?
I wasn't showing off.
The dirt bike riders filmed their antics across multiple lanes of traffic.
There seems to be a trend with younger people posting these types of incidents to social media for likes, but it's just outright dangerous.
And allegedly boasting online about it makes it easier for police to build their case. Detectives spent more than 6 weeks tracking down those responsible. They executed 9 warrants across Melbourne. They say it's not over yet. 5 people have been arrested. A 19-year-old reservoir man was charged with 15 offences, including criminal damage, reckless conduct, endangering life and dangerous driving. Police also allegedly found drugs at his home. The other 4 people were charged on summons with reckless conduct, endangering life, driving unlicensed and driving an unregistered vehicle.
And Neri joins us in the studio now with more on this story. Neri, investigators are still looking for other offenders.
That's right, Alicia, and police have released a number of images of young men that are looking for. As you can see from these photos, the pictures are quite clear. They're wearing very distinctive clothing and helmets too. They're appealing for these young men to come forward. As police say, it's only a matter of time before they make more arrests. Alicia?
OK, Neri, thank you.
Well, Donald Trump suffered a significant legal blow today when a court rejected his claim that presidents should be immune from criminal prosecution. Alison Petrowski tells us 3 judges called it irrational and a stance that would collapse the US legal system.
Accused of plotting to overturn the 2020 election and defrauding the United States, Donald Trump claimed US presidents should have absolute protection from prosecution. And I feel that as a president, you have to have immunity. Very simple. But his argument was shut down by the District of Columbia Circuit Court of Appeals, a 57-page ruling with a decisive and unanimous opinion. Former President Trump has become Citizen Trump, with all of the defences of any other criminal defendant. They went on to describe his position as irrational, that his stance would collapse our system, placing the president beyond the reach of all three branches. Trump's campaign said they respectfully disagreed. Every future president who leaves office will be immediately indicted by the opposing party, while his Republican allies echoed his ongoing claims of a political witch hunt.
Extreme Democrats will stop at nothing in attempt to prevent President Donald Trump from returning to the White House.
And we call it lawfare, and I think there's no other way to describe it.
The most serious of his cases, if convicted, he would face significant jail time. Today's ruling brings Donald Trump one step closer to an unprecedented criminal trial before the November election.
If he is elected president, he could pardon himself, but his current legal options are rapidly diminishing. He has 6 days to file an appeal with the Supreme Court, with no guarantee they will take it up. In Washington, D.C., Alison Petrowski, 9 News.
For the first time in America's history, a parent has been held responsible for their child's deadly shooting. Michigan mother Jennifer Crumbley was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter. A jury found she could have prevented her 15-year-old son from killing 4 students at his high school in November 2021.
A man in Los Angeles has gone to great lengths to save his dog by jumping into a river after his pet was swept away. An emergency helicopter managed to hoist him from the water before flying him to hospital. The pooch was found on the riverbank after swimming to safety.
All right, Livinia Nixon joins us now with more on the weather. And Livinia, it's been very low-key weather, we can say, here in Melbourne.
Yes, yeah, we can say that. We've had plenty of summer sunshine today, and that pushed the city from 12 degrees to 22, 4 degrees below our February average. We'll need to wait until Sunday to get some more typical summer weather. A severe heat wave is about to hit Western Australia. That heat will gradually move across to Victoria, although nothing too extreme for us. I'll have details on that along with the Thursday forecast later in the bulletin, Tom.
All right, Livinia, we'll see you soon. After the break, workplace safety concerns. Part of a council worker's foot amputated after an incident at Keilor Park.
Plus, new laws to stop bosses contacting workers out of hours.
And Melbourne researchers make a world-first discovery about a debilitating disease. Brimbank Council is being urged to take safety more seriously after a road crew worker had to have part of his foot amputated following a spider bite. Glenn Dorraine says a white-tailed spider found its way into his work boots in a locker at the Keilor Park Operations Centre. He claims his colleagues had asked for the locker room to be fumigated but were instead offered cans of bug spray.
I cleaned the boot out in the trough and out it come. It was dead, I'd killed it, but it had bit me beforehand. 2.5 weeks later, I was getting me toe and part of my foot amputated.
He's unlikely to be able to work again. WorkSafe inspectors were called in this morning following a union visit that raised further safety concerns at the same site.
Millions of Australian workers will soon be able to swap time on their phones for time with their family.
The Albanese government has secured support for sweeping industrial relations changes that require bosses to consider what is reasonable contact. Here's Charles Croucher.
Sometimes escaping the work phone can be tricky.
She will call you back.
But tonight, for millions of Australians, it's about to get easier.
What we're simply saying is that someone who's not being paid 24 hours a day shouldn't be penalised if they're not online and available 24 hours a day.
The government and Greens combining with David Pocock and Lydia Thorpe enough to pass the changes to be implemented by Christmas.
We need to be protecting people's private time and mental health, but how we do that is critical.
Exceptions will be made for emergencies, notifying of shift changes, if the employee is paid an on-call rate or if the employee is paid to do the work.
How often you are contacted, how you are contacted, the nature of your job description, whether you're being paid or not, and the nature of your family responsibilities.
Additional cost, additional complexity and complete, total and utter confusion.
Many companies and businesses have exactly these systems in place now.
But business groups warn the consequences may impact costs.
The idea that you can regulate
for common sense through legislation like this is fundamentally flawed.
I think there's this thing called common sense, and I think employers and employees use that pretty well.
Workers will be encouraged to talk to their employers first before taking the case to the Fair Work Commission, which would give warnings before a fine.
The changes are part of sweeping industrial relation laws set to pass the Parliament. They will give more rights to casual and gig workers and give the government another win to start the year. Charles Croucher, 9 News.
A massive explosion has blown apart a fireworks factory in central India, killing at least 11 people and injuring more than 150. Workers and nearby residents ran for their lives as the building went up in flames. The facility supplied popular crackers for weddings and religious festivals.
A brighter outlook tonight for Australians who suffer from an autoimmune disease. Melbourne researchers are behind a breakthrough discovery that could lead to a cure for lupus and help treat other life-threatening illnesses. More from Gabriella Rogers.
Lupus doesn't discriminate. Singer Selena Gomez needed a kidney transplant in her battle, which affects more than 25,000 Australians. The immune system mistakenly attacks various parts of the body.
The joints, then the kidneys, then it's gone up to my heart and my brain.
There is no cure, although different medications can control it.
I think all the medications that I've been on have had really severe side effects.
Current treatments simply wipe out the entire immune system, or most of the immune system.
Now an Australian-led breakthrough.
This discovery is a world-first treatment to act as a software reset of the immune system.
It targets the underlying defect by inserting a protective molecule into the patient's dysfunctional immune cells called Tregs. The aim is to harvest the patient's own white blood cells for processing, modify them in the lab before reinfusing the supercharged cells. In test tubes and in mice with kidney inflammation, the effects were profound.
It stopped the progression of the lupus kidney disease without the need for toxic immunosuppressant drugs.
Whether this will be a cure, researchers won't know until clinical trials start in a few years. It could also be developed for other autoimmune diseases, such as type 1 diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis and multiple sclerosis. A discovery with a potential to help millions. Gabriella Rogers, 9 News.
Ahead in Melbourne's 9 News, flung into the air, a scooter rider sent flying by a car that failed to stop.
Empty beer kegs targeted by thieves, cashing them in for scrap metal.
And the wicked ticket sale that really drew a crowd.
A scooter rider who wasn't wearing a helmet has escaped serious injury after a car ploughed into him. The young man was at a pedestrian crossing in Mornington when the driver failed to stop. The impact launched him into the air before he managed to stand up. Australia's second largest bank will welcome a new CEO within weeks. As Chris Kohler reports, incoming boss Andrew Irvine takes over from Ross McEwen.
Jobs in corporate Australia don't come much bigger than CEO of one of the big banks. And on April 2, Ross McEwen will leave the club and Andrew Irvine will join it, becoming the new boss of NAB. That top job is worth about $3.8 million a year. And the feeling is that Ross McEwen did his best to earn it. As he leaves, the bank is worth about $25 billion more than when he took over. So pretty big shoes to fill.
We've had a good run under Ross over the last 3 or 4 years, becoming a better bank. And my job, working with the team, is to continue to be there for our customers, helping those who might be struggling in these more difficult economic times.
And investors weren't that thrilled with the news. NAB shares slipped while the rest of the market rose. Elsewhere, Santos slumped after merger talks with Woodside ended, and the Aussie dollar is buying 65 US cents and close to 61 euro cents.
Brazen beer keg bandits have been caught on camera pillaging empty barrels from outside the front of a Carlton pub. The high-vis crooks loaded a dozen kegs into a white van outside the Clyde Hotel. It's one of 9 pubs across the city that's been targeted over the past few months. Police say it's cost the industry $30,000 and the thieves are likely selling the empties for scrap metal.
Well, with cost of living pressures biting budgets, the producers of Wicked the musical have held a Wicked ticket sale. As Alan Raskell discovered, lovers of the stage turned out in droves to secure their cheap seats.
Like a wicked witch's serpent, they snaked along Collins Street to the Regent, all to get their hands on heavily discounted tickets to the first show of Wicked. The Wicked price, just $20.
That's a bargain.
Very much so, yeah. As soon as I heard about that, I was like, I'm getting on that deal, absolutely.
Now, I've seen it in London.
Have you?
So, yeah, so I'm thrilled.
Stars of the show counted down to the budget box office sale. The $20 tickets were limited to 2 per person, with 2,000 on offer. The musical is set in the land of Oz before Dorothy drops in and tells the tale of 2 young women who become known as the Good and Wicked Witches. Glinda the Good Witch is played by Courtney Monsma.
I do play a good witch. I think that's kind of the whole concept of the show. It kind of like what defines good and bad.
Melbourne's Sheridan Adams turns green to tackle the role of the Wicked Elphaba.
When people see me, they will scream. It's like a badge of honour. Only takes around about an hour to get on and 15 minutes to get off, so it's a lot easier than people might think.
Liam Head plays Playboy Prince Fiero.
He is a winky prince. He's kind of the love interest with the 2 girls. He gets caught in the middle of it a little bit.
Starting March 2, the show's on at the Regent Theatre until May 12.
So why not have a Wicked time and get along and see Wicked? It'll defy gravity.
Alan Ruskell, 9 News.
All right, let's get back to sport with Tony Jones. Tony, what's happening?
Plenty, let me tell you about that, because up next, the AFL dishes out a heavy concussion fine. We're live with that story. Why 3's not a crowd at Carlton? A luckless Saint in the wars again, and the Aussie veteran ready to fill Sam's shoes. Carlton has rewarded Charlie Curnow for his Coleman medal form, elevating him to vice-captain. The honour certainly not lost on the 27-year-old, who's endured his fair share of injuries before finally hitting his straps. Trent Neist reports.
It's still a month before the season starts, but the Blues are picture perfect. The focus today, very much on Charlie Curnow. He's now right alongside Patrick Cripps as one of 3 vice-captains.
Yeah, I mean, it's a massive honour. I'm super lucky to be standing alongside of Cripper, Weeders and Walshy, and they've done such a great job, and I can't wait to learn off them and get started into the season.
The appointment of Curnow means the Blues now have a vice-captain in every line. Jacob Wiedering in defence, Sam Walsh in the middle, and now Charlie up forward. It's got the skipper's seal of approval.
He's got a presence about him when he plays, and that's what you want as a leader. So we feel like we've got all areas covered now on the ground in terms of our leadership group.
It looms a big year for Curnow, the back-to-back Coleman medalist. Should he win the medal again this year, he'll become the first AFL player since Gary Ablett Sr. to win 3 in a row.
I haven't really thought about it too much until it was brought up just then, but I mean, that stuff's all nice, but in the end, each season you come to an end and you're not really satisfied without that end goal of what Collingwood got to taste last year.
The Blues start their 2024 journey against the side that knocked them out of the finals last year, the Brisbane Lions.
Hopefully we can put our best foot forward then, and then it is a team game, so I'm looking forward to playing with our forward line as a unit and attack, hopefully another final series.
Trent Neist, 9 News.
St Kilda's Hunter Clark has been sent for scans after a nasty training incident. Clark's teammates wrapping their arms around the luckless Saint, given his history of head knocks. More from Braden Ingram.
With the season only a month away, there's no holding back at Moorabbin, but it's that approach that took down Hunter Clark today after the defender copped an errant elbow from Brad Crouch in match simulation.
Probably given his history, we've probably just played the precautionary approach and getting him off.
Teammates consoling Clark, who's had his fair share of heavy hits, none more so than this collision that broke his jaw in 2021. The defender undergoing scans to determine if there's any major damage. The Saints wary of complacency this season after a breakthrough September appearance.
We played finals in 2020 and then it took us 3 years to get back there. So the group know that it doesn't just happen. You've got to turn up again day one.
Jack Sinclair trained indoors while Mateus Filippo was on light duties. At Whitten Oval, a reduced load for sore defender Liam Jones, while Jack McRae will remain in the rehab group for at least another week after straining his hamstring. The stocks of top draftee Riley Sanders already sky high, with the round 1 debut growing more likely.
He's just going to grow every game he plays this year. I think he's going to play a fair few.
And no pain, no gain for Collingwood captain Darcy Moore, who fortunately bounced back up after a big hit at Pies training.
Braden Ingram with that story. Well, to other sport, and with an injured Sam Kerr unavailable, Matilda's coach Tony Gustafsson has produced a selection shock ahead of this month's Olympic qualifier against Uzbekistan over at Marvel Stadium. Coming into the squad, 35-year-old striker Michelle Heyman.
I feel like a kid again, and I just can't wait to be back with the team to help, give a little bit of me to show them that I've still got this.
Heyman hasn't played for the Matildas in 6 years. A changing of the guard at Melbourne Storm with Harry Grant appointed captain. Grant becomes the 15th player to skipper the club, joining the likes of luminaries such as Glenn Lazarus, Stephen Kearney and Cam Smith.
To have had a little bit of time learning off Cam and through the NRL and then into Origin, but in saying that, it's something to learn off, but also try and do it my own way and put a bit of a spin on it.
Grant's first outing as skipper will be against Triple Premiers Penrith at Amy Park on March the 8th. Cricket hero Ricky Ponting is taking on what could be his biggest challenge yet, breaking into the US market. Ponting has signed on to coach the Washington Freedom in the American League for the next 2 years.
I'm there to bring success to the team, to Washington Freedom, and if that leads to other people wanting to get involved and be a part of it, then so be it.
And on the back of Ricky's appointment, Washington fans might be getting just a little ahead of themselves.
This is the start of something. I hope it continues. India, watch out. Australia, watch out, because we're coming for you.
Washington won 3 of its 5 matches in its inaugural year. The new season begins on July the 4th. Nice quiet day in the US.
You've got to aim high, don't you, in life?
Not that high.
Thanks, Tony. Lavinia is back with us now. And how's our Thursday shaping up, Lavinia?
Well, Alicia, it will be warmer than today. Lighter winds, lots of sunshine. There is plenty to like, although the forecast for Friday isn't as bright. I'll have those details and the full 7-day forecast for you next. Hello again. It was a rather chilly start to the day around Melbourne. After an overnight low of 12, the city peaked at 22. It was even colder around the suburbs this morning, just 6 at Yarra Glen. Ringwood got down to 8 degrees, Tullamarine, Epping and Rosebud 9, and most other spots only just stayed in double figures. So the sunshine had to work hard to push daytime temperatures into the 20s, mostly 22 or 23 degrees. Ringwood rebounded, so did Yarra Glen, from their low starts to peak at 24. Epping has been the warmest on 25. There were widespread minimums in single figures across the state, down to the 7 degrees in the southwest, 8 at Ballarat and also at Sale. Rutherglen dropped to 9 but warmed up to 29 degrees this afternoon, one of the highest maximums in the state. But once again, areas south of the ranges only reached the low 20s. Inland parts of Queensland have been hit with more heavy rain. This trough has just delivered more than 100 millimetres to the central west. It will move further inland tomorrow, helping to direct hot easterly winds across WA, so temperatures are set to increase dramatically in that part of the country. Tomorrow, Perth is forecast to hit 39 degrees, then 41 on Friday and Saturday, and some of that heat will eventually move into Victoria early next week. Tomorrow, Perth will be far and away our hottest capital with a top of 39, 10 degrees cooler than that in Adelaide, 25 in Hobart and Sydney, 24 in Canberra, 30 in Brisbane with a few showers easing later in the day. It'll be a little warmer across Victoria tomorrow under gentle south to southeasterly breezes and very little cloud about. Only Hamilton and Ballarat are heading down to single figures again, 9 degrees for both, ahead of maximums of 25 and 26, 24 and 25 through Gippsland, and most areas north of the ranges are heading for the low 30s. Here in Melbourne, Ferny Creek is the only spot expected to dip below 10 degrees, a forecast minimum of 8, and then it should warm up to 22. Rosebud is also heading for 22, but it'll be a little warmer elsewhere, up to 27 at Coldstream, and there'll be beautiful blue skies all day. Geelong is expected to reach the same maximum as today, 23 degrees, after a low of 13. The city should be a couple of degrees warmer after dipping to 15. It's expected to reach a sunny top of 24. Friday will be cooler, cloudy skies and just 22 degrees, but things certainly pick up over the weekend. A top of 26 on Saturday, up to 33 on Sunday, 34 on Monday, Tuesday is the hottest day in the outlook, 35 under blue skies, but a big drop next Wednesday, 21. We'll do a little bit better than that tomorrow under sunny skies. After an overnight low of 15 degrees, the city's heading for 24 under gentle southerly breezes. Nothing to complain about there.
Certainly not, Livinia. Thank you very much for that. And that is 9 News this Wednesday. Ali is next with a current affair.
We hope that you have a great evening. For now, from all of us, it's good night.